if we take it into kind of, I think, 4 core components, what B Corp does is it looks at the structure of your business from its governance. So this talks about your ownership, your transparency around shareholders, the ethics in which you run the business. You then look at people, not just things like, what are your benefits and, is it a nice place to work, but it's looking at things like your diversity, your inclusion, the training that you offer, the progression, the metrics, 360 feedback, employee ownership, lots of different things. And these are just literally headlines. Looks at your community. So in our instance, we have 3 programs. I think the really interesting one to kind of mention here is called Motherboard. So we operate in the tech sector. Motherboard was developed by an employee called Sophie, and it's a physical business charter that businesses sign up to in terms of pledging to make improvements in their working environment, support moms working within the tech sector due to the common issues that surround gender pay gap, issues at a senior level from leadership, taking time out to have kids come back and have dropped potentially coding skills, because et cetera, et cetera. So the key thing in all of this is that it's generating an impact in terms of it's impacting positively people. It's not greenwashing. There is an outcome for how we develop as a society or for our people internally. And then final, how we contribute to the planet. So from a recruitment point of view, if I'm really candid, it's really quite simple, because we're a B2B service provider. If you consider an FMCG manufacturer that's operating on a global level, it's much more complex. You have transportation, you have farmers' rights, you have child slavery and all of these things. So we're fairly privileged, as I would describe it, in the UK, due to a lot of the working conditions and systems that we're set up with. But what B Corp does is it holds us accountable for where we are now, where we are to improve across all of those factors.